Ladies and gentlemen, in life, success is not only about what you do, it's also about who you allow around you. The people we surround ourselves with shape our mindset, energy, decisions, and ultimately, our destiny. But not everyone in your circle is good for your soul. Today, I want to shine a light on 6 dangerous types of people you must learn to recognize and avoid. Chronic complainers are among the most emotionally exhausting people you can have in your life. They always find something wrong, no matter the situation. If the sun is shining, it's too hot. If it's raining, the day is ruined. Nothing is ever quite good enough for them, and they seem to thrive on the energy of disappointment. They aren't just expressing the occasional frustration, which is natural and human. No, these individuals live in a constant state of dissatisfaction, and they want others to join them in their misery. The danger with chronic complainers is that their behavior is contagious. Spend enough time around them, and you'll find yourself starting to mimic their mindset. You may begin to overlook the good things in your life because their influence trains you to focus only on what's lacking or broken. Complaining becomes a habit, a reflex. It shifts your energy from gratitude and growth to pessimism and passivity. This mindset doesn't just impact your mood, it seeps into your decision making, your relationships, and your goals. What makes chronic complainers particularly dangerous is that they often believe they're simply being realistic. They'll argue that they're just telling it like it is, but what they're really doing is distorting reality to match their internal discontent. They tend to resist solutions because complaining isn't about resolution. It's about attention and validation. When you offer a way forward or a silver lining, they often dismiss it, because if the problem disappears, so does the narrative they've built their identity around. Being around them can slowly dismantle your motivation. Your dreams may start to feel unrealistic, your efforts pointless, and your progress invisible. You may even begin to question your judgment or your optimism, simply because someone nearby keeps casting a shadow over every bright spot. And the worst part, they often don't realize the damage they're causing. They see themselves as harmless venters, unaware of how much they pull others down with them. In time, their presence can make your world feel smaller and heavier. You start to see barriers instead of possibilities. The joy of the moment becomes lost under the weight of what's supposedly wrong. And unless you recognize it early and create distance, you risk becoming someone you never intended to be. Just another person who forgot how to appreciate life. Master manipulators are among the most subtle and dangerous individuals you can encounter. They rarely raise their voice or show open aggression. Instead, they operate in the shadows of conversation, emotion, and trust. They present themselves as helpful, understanding, or even caring, but their real motive is control. Everything they say and do is carefully calculated to serve their interests, not yours. At first, they seem incredibly supportive, even charming. They listen closely, remember details, and make you feel valued. But over time, you begin to notice the strings they pull, the way your thoughts and actions slowly start to align more with their desires than your own. Their tactics are psychological and precise. They use guilt to make you feel obligated, flattery to win your trust, and subtle threats or emotional withdrawal to keep you compliant. One moment, they make you feel special, and the next, they withdraw affection or approval when you don't do what they want. They're skilled at twisting facts or leaving out key details, so that reality bends in their favor. You might leave a conversation with them feeling confused or unsure of yourself, even though they never raised their voice. That confusion is not an accident, it's a sign that you've just been manipulated. Over time, a master manipulator will erode your confidence and independence. You'll start second, guessing your choices and leaning on them for validation. They'll create emotional dependency, making you feel as if you need their guidance or approval to function. You may even begin to question your memory or judgment, because they're so good at reframing events to shift blame or responsibility. It's a slow, creeping process, and many people don't realize it's happening until the damage is already deep. What makes master manipulators particularly dangerous is their ability to blend in. They don't look like villains. In fact, they often appear successful, well-spoken, or kind. But their kindness is conditional, and their loyalty only lasts as long as they're benefiting from you. Once you no longer serve their purpose, they'll discard or discredit you, quietly but effectively. The emotional scars left by a manipulator can take a long time to heal. They don't just harm your relationships, they damage your sense of self. Recognizing these patterns early is the only way to protect your peace, your power, and your freedom. Gossip addicts thrive on the misfortunes, secrets, and shortcomings of others. They are constantly hungry for new information, not to help, but to share it, twist it, and pass it along. To them, spreading rumors and dissecting other people's lives is a form of entertainment and power. They often disguise their gossip as concern or curiosity, saying things like, "I'm just worried about them," or "Did you hear what happened?" But behind the mask of interest lies a deeper intention: to stir drama, build social currency, and elevate themselves by tearing others down. These individuals are often well-connected, not because they build meaningful relationships, but because they insert themselves into the private spaces of other people's lives. They know just enough to be dangerous, grabbing onto half-truths or out-of-context moments and spinning them into stories that travel fast and far. Gossip addicts don't always lie outright, but they often exaggerate, omit key facts, or suggest things with tone and implication rather than direct words. Their weapon is ambiguity and their battlefield is conversation. The danger in being around a gossip addict is that they create an atmosphere of mistrust. People become guarded, relationships feel fragile, and authenticity disappears. You never quite know what will be repeated or twisted once you walk away. If someone gossips to you, it's almost guaranteed they gossip about you. They don't have real loyalty, only shifting alliances based on who's providing the most juicy content. Their presence slowly erodes the sense of safety in any group, turning friends against each other and breaking bonds that took years to build. What makes them particularly toxic is how normal their behavior can seem. In casual settings, gossip can feel like small talk. It's easy to laugh along, to nod in agreement, or to feel flattered when you're trusted with a secret. But the damage adds up. Reputations are destroyed, trust is broken, and people get hurt, often without knowing who started the fire. Over time, gossip addicts isolate themselves without realizing it. As their pattern becomes clear, people begin to avoid opening up to them or including them in important conversations. But until that happens, their influence can be deeply harmful. Being associated with them, even by silence, can drag you into conflict and cause you to inherit enemies you never earned. Envious underminers are the kind of people who smile in your face, but secretly can't stand to see you succeed. On the surface, they may appear supportive, even friendly. They might congratulate you, ask about your progress, or show interest in your achievements. But underneath that surface is a deep resentment. Your growth feels like a threat to their sense of worth, and instead of using it as inspiration to improve themselves, they choose to silently chip away at your confidence. Their envy doesn't always show up in obvious ways. It often hides behind backhanded compliments, passive-aggressive remarks, or subtle forms of sabotage. These individuals rarely celebrate your wins with genuine joy. Instead, they downplay your accomplishments, find flaws in your success, or quickly shift the focus back to themselves. If you get a promotion, they'll suggest it was luck. If you share a new idea, they'll remind you that someone else did it first. Their goal is not to help you grow or keep you grounded. It's to make sure you never feel too confident or too proud. They want you to doubt yourself just enough to slow down, to shrink a little, to question your path. Envious underminers can be especially dangerous because they often come from within your inner circle: friends, coworkers, even family. That closeness gives their words more weight, making it harder to recognize their behavior as toxic. You may tell yourself they're just being honest or trying to help, but deep down, something always feels off. They use familiarity as a tool, leveraging your trust to insert just enough doubt to hold you back. What's most unsettling is their unpredictability. Sometimes they seem genuinely supportive, offering praise and encouragement. But as soon as you start shining too brightly, they pull back, grow cold, or start criticizing in subtle, cutting ways. Their support is conditional, and the condition is that you don't outgrow them. Being around envious underminers can have a lasting impact on your mindset. Over time, you may begin to fear success, hesitate to share good news, or suppress your ambition to avoid making others uncomfortable. But no dream should be dimmed to protect someone else's ego. It's essential to recognize this type of person early and create space between their insecurity and your potential, because their approval will always come at the cost of your growth. Victim players are individuals who consistently portray themselves as the wronged party in every situation, no matter the facts. Their entire identity is built around suffering, and they use it to avoid accountability, gain sympathy, and manipulate the emotions of those around them. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions or decisions, they shift blame onto others or external circumstances. Nothing is ever their fault. Life is unfair, people are cruel, and they are always misunderstood. This mindset creates a toxic pattern where progress, growth, and problem solving are impossible, because victimhood becomes a shield against personal responsibility. What makes victim players so difficult to deal with is how convincing they can be. They often tell emotionally charged stories filled with selective details that paint them in a sympathetic light. They lean on your compassion, knowing that most people want to be kind and supportive. But the more you try to help, the more you become entangled in their drama. You find yourself offering advice that's ignored, extending favors that are never enough, and making sacrifices that are quickly forgotten. No matter what you do, it's never quite right, because the goal was never resolution. It was control through guilt and emotional leverage. These individuals often use their perceived suffering as a way to manipulate relationships. They play on your sense of duty, making you feel like abandoning them would be cruel. If you set boundaries, they accuse you of being selfish or uncaring. If you succeed at something, they might make you feel guilty for having it better than them. Over time, their constant need for attention and validation becomes emotionally draining. You may begin to feel responsible for their happiness, which traps you in a cycle where your energy is constantly diverted toward managing their crises, real or exaggerated. The danger of keeping victim players close is that they pull you into a narrative where nothing ever changes. They remain stuck in the same place, and if you're not careful, you do too. Their refusal to own their choices becomes a heavy anchor tied to your progress. They don't want solutions, they want sympathy, and anyone who challenges their narrative becomes the new villain in their story. To protect your peace, you have to recognize when compassion is being used against you, and understand that some people don't want to heal because being broken gives them power. Silent saboteurs are the most subtle and insidious type of dangerous person you can encounter. They don't yell, argue, or confront you directly. Instead, they quietly chip away at your confidence, often under the guise of concern, realism, or even friendship. Their words are soft but loaded. "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or "That's a big risk, don't get your hopes up." On the surface, it sounds like they care. But underneath, their true intention is to plant seeds of doubt, to make you question your abilities, and to hold you back without ever seeming openly negative. These individuals rarely show their true hand. They might be colleagues, friends, or even family members who claim to support you but consistently offer discouragement at critical moments. They might not say you'll fail, but they'll ask questions that make you second-guess yourself. They won't openly criticize your dreams, but they'll bring up stories of others who tried and didn't make it. Their approach is strategic. They maintain a passive presence while slowly steering you away from your goals. What makes silent saboteurs especially dangerous is that their behavior is difficult to detect. Unlike overt haters or manipulators, they hide their intentions well. You may not realize their influence until you start noticing patterns. You feel less motivated after talking to them, more hesitant about your plans, or strangely insecure in areas where you once felt confident. They often cloak their sabotage in politeness or concern, making it hard for you to call them out without seeming paranoid or overly sensitive. Over time, these subtle messages accumulate and begin to shape your internal dialogue. You start preemptively doubting yourself, hesitating where you used to take bold steps. You shrink your goals to avoid discomfort or disappointment, not realizing that it was never your fear. It was theirs, disguised and transferred to you. Silent saboteurs are uncomfortable with growth. Yours threatens their comfort zone, and instead of rising with you, they would rather keep you within reach. The real cost of a silent saboteur isn't the criticism you hear. It's the belief you lose. It's the hesitation you develop. It's the opportunities you never chase because someone convinced you, slowly and quietly, that you weren't ready or worthy. And by the time you notice, their damage is already done.